My name is Raul Moarquech Ferrera-Balanquet. I am an interdisciplinary artist, Fulbright scholar, curator, writer, and community activist. I was born in Havana, Cuba, and I was forced into exile when I was 20 years old in 1980 during the Mariel boat lift. Due to my exile, I was relocated to the state of Iowa, and I was able to enter the communication school at the University of Iowa in Iowa City, where I studied film theory, but also printmaking, photography, and a lot of art history courses, including West African. The study at Iowa was very interesting, and it was very important in my development as an artist, because as the film school was engaged into understanding film history and authorship, it was also interested in understanding the whole filmmaking process, from drawing, printmaking, photography, and then film. That gave me a lot of information about composing images. In Havana, before I came to the United States, I was studying at the Superior School of Construction, and I was majoring in architectural drafting and also architectural design. So when I entered the film school, I had a lot of information, background, and expertise and skills to understand set design, lighting, and camera framing, and other elements that also helped me when I took classes at the art school. I became a curator when I was in my junior year, because the communication school needed to have a Latin American cinema professor, and so I was assigned to produce a Latin American film festival. So there I learned how all the organizational skills that a curator needs, and also I learned a lot of things. I mean, I learned how to book flights and hotels, and really do research, figure out ways how to do programming, how put everything together. So I'm saying this because my life as an artist, as a curator, he have gone parallel to at the same time. And I have to acknowledge that a lot of my curatorial work in many ways have influenced my work as an artist, because I have learned ways to display our work, way of framing our work through the curatorial process, and I have applied that to my artwork. So I don't disassociate one skill from the other one. During graduate school, I studied my MFA at the School of Art and Art History at the University of Iowa in the multimedia intermediate programs, and I studied under the guidance of Hans Breder, a German minimalist artist who have been a professor at the University of Iowa since the late 60s. And actually, Ana Mendieta, a Cuban-born artist, graduated from that program too. And it was very helpful for me, because as being a Cuban, since I already have been there, it wasn't difficult for me to be a Cuban and express my Cuban roots in my artistic process. So I was able to develop and grow within the department, and engage into performance, into writing, in doing installation, and the complexity of my work really grew up out of that program. When I first was approached by the Hillyers to produce this exhibition, I realized that I had the privilege to be working at a very iconic institution in the United States, such as Howard University and the Gallery of Art. My first thought was to bring together a series of professors working at the university and establish conversation with their work and my work as us converging in the same place. What it has been really interesting that in the process and understanding the history of Black art at Howard University and examining the works of the artists and their life that are in this exhibition, I realized how unconsciously my instinct start putting together these artists, their work, and how the undercurrent narrative of the exhibition was surfacing in ways that I didn't imagine. What was really interesting for me is that I have to stop and really look into who was each of the artists that I was engaging in this curatorial project. And I was really, in a certain way, mesmerized by the history of Akili Ron Anderson because he had been a student at Howard University in the 60s. So it was through the work and life of Akili that I understood that in the 60s, Howard University had a European art curriculum, and the students protested against that curriculum, demanding to have a more close approach to African American and African diaspora art and culture. And what it was interesting that when I learned that moment of history at Howard University, and I learned also that Jeff Donaldson was brought into the art department to be the chair of the art department. And so I began to read Jeff Donaldson writing and the idea of the supra-realities. No, I cannot say that it was born at that moment because I'm a decolonial artist and a decolonial curator and theory, so I have been working with the census for a long time, also because I was born in Cuba. Part of my family is Yoruba, Lokumi, Congo. My maternal grandfather was Haitian, so I learned since I was a child about Bebe drawings and voodoo and all those practices. So it was very interesting to me when I started reading Jeff Donaldson that the idea of the sensorial is so important. I have been historical important for African American diaspora, African Americans, and also African diaspora artists. So I realized that in some way the spirit of Jeff Donaldson was somehow speaking to me and to this curatorial project. Also at that moment I learned how Akili Anderson became part of the Afro Cobra collective, which a collective that have a very profound and important, I should say, place within African American history, not only because of the way that they did transform the visual iconography of African American art, but also because somehow they understood the same way that Alain Locke understood at the beginning of the 20th century that it was important to go back and understand the ancestral legacy that African cultures have given to those African descendants that live in the Americas. And so And I had to really thank Akili for bringing knowledge and informing this curatorial project, historically informing this curatorial project. I really want to stress that there is the undercurrents and the way in which there is what I will call a hypertextual connectivity with all the works that are in this exhibition. And I would say that, for example, the work of Raimi Gbadamosi, who have interrogate the notion of nationalism. If you look at Elka Stevens' work, the whole inspiration that comes from her work also underlines a critique on the construction of the nation and the use of the black woman body in the construction of this nation. Reginald Pointer, he discourse of the nation has to do also with the experience of African American, and I will point out to the piece of a Black Lives Matter piece, in which it's a recent history, but it's an ongoing struggle and I would say cry that comes from African Americans since the time of slavery and colonial time in this country. I also connected with the experience of the nation. The work of Akili, I think that somehow because of his experience as an artist have to do with doing really in-depth research about what it is the whole vocabulary of visual imaginary of the African descendant people. His interrogation of the nation is at the level of its visual grammar. In the work of my work, in that case, I also question the nation, the notion of exile, but also I question the nation of, and the notion, I should say, of what it means to be African, especially in the context of the United States, where many Afro-Latinos are being displaced for the Afrocentric idea because we speak Spanish and we are not considered, we even cannot claim our blackness within the racialized structures of the United States because of, I should be Hispanic, no Afro. And I bring that in my work, and also as I construct the diasporic nation, reclaiming in a certain way the ancestral writing that my Haitian grandfather, who was an immigrant to Eastern Cuba, taught me Berber writing when I was a child, and I discouraged because I thought it was witchcraft. And it wasn't until I went to college that I realized that I have learned a great system of writing, that it was very ancient. I have many, many years that was brought by the enslaved Caribbean, African to the Caribbeans. I want to mention that in 2001, I was hired to translate the American Museum Association, Excellence and Equality into Spanish. And I learned from that moment that a curatorial project has to include the audience and the visitor as part of their exhibition displays and organization. So as I was putting together the show, I was thinking about what do the audience will get from this curatorial project. And in fact, that although I don't want to create an ideological discourse out of the curatorial project, I really would like the audience to understand how the importance of history in the construction of this exhibition, the importance of each individual artist, and their experience in relationship to the sociological and cultural experience in the African diaspora, and also understand that there is, in many ways, in order to do, or in order to express Africanness in the art, one doesn't necessarily have to portray a black body, because that is the idea that many people have about African diaspora. You see the black body, oh, that's black art. And I want the audience to, and the visitors to take out that that is not necessarily a way in which many of African diaspora artists work.